Labor was hoping, as you know, to make health a key election issue. The whole Mediscare campaign's there, the $8.5 billion boost to the federal takeover of the system.
An $8.5 billion commitment to deliver stronger Medicare everywhere, saving people hundreds of dollars in out-of-pocket costs. No asterisk, no fine print, no terms and conditions, just 100% bulk billing covered by Medicare.
And look, to cut that scare campaign off at the knees, the coalition quickly announced they would match it.
The coalition government is committed to $9 billion worth of investment into our general practice network. It will provide support to training, it will provide support to mental health services, and it will provide support to making sure that practices are viable, and it'll help build those bulk billing rates back up to what they were under a coalition government.
So is the PM's announcement the vote winner he hopes it is? Well, it got a bit of a lukewarm reception, even at the ABC.
Why hasn't this already been done?
Yeah, that's a pretty fair point that you make. The truth is that the reason why Medicare needs this response is to repair the damage that was done when Peter Dutton was the health minister.
But do you understand how people feel frustrated that it hasn't been done already? Because bulk billing rates have been in decline.
Oh, absolutely. But what we've done is improved the Medicare rebate.
How many people see this as a vote switcher for them? They're like, yep, that Medicare policy is the sort of policy I've been looking for. That's interesting.
Crickets, hey? For more on this now, I'm joined by Sky News political editor Andrew Clennell. You saw that audience, it's an ABC audience at that. He thought it was the silver bullet. I think the Prime Minister might be disappointed if that was a focus group. I don't think it's going to sway a whole lot of voters, and I think if you look at the record, and I just went through that now, bulk billing rates were worse under this term of the Labor government than they have been for about 25 years. And if you look at all the stuff about health funding too, I've gone back through all the old Department of Health budget papers, and there's not the cuts that Peter Dutton is claimed to have made. So I think the government's got to be careful here.
Well, I think you're right. They thought it'd be a silver bullet. I really think they must have thought Peter Dutton wouldn't match it. And, you know, by 8 a.m. Sunday morning on Sunday Agenda, Angus Taylor said we're matching it. Peter Dutton came out during Anthony Albanese's speech on Sunday and said the same thing. In fact, we're giving a little bit more to mental health. And that was kind of the end of the attempt at, you know, jet charging a Labor campaign. So they've got to kind of start again in a sense. And they've been out all week on this Medicare campaigning, but it's like, well, the other guy's doing it anyway. What else you got? So I think they're in, well, I think they're in a bit of strife, the government, to be frank, Peter. I mean, they would have seen, from what I hear, the tracking polling hasn't moved in 2 weeks. They've had a rate cut. They've had a big announcement. They're not shifting it to where they want it to be. And, you know, Peter Dutton's not there yet, and there's a long way to go, and it's tight, let's face it. But Anthony Albanese would want to lift his performance and come up with a bit more. I mean, I've been saying, some Labor people said to me today, that was the big one. And I'm sort of saying, is that it? Because I don't think that's enough to get, well, I think if you can forget Labor in majority government at this point, pretty much, but, you know, they'd struggle to get in minority government with just that.
That's been gone for 18 months.
So,
well, the interesting thing is, Andrew, I was talking to people in the seat of Aston, so key marginal here in Victoria. This is Indian community representatives, and they have had calls coming in to homes running a scare campaign on Medicare since about Christmas time, right? So that was laying the groundwork for the government then to come in and solve the problem. It was the hallmarks of the 2007 campaign over the weekend. So I was there at the time in 2007, at the end of the Howard government. There was a terrific tax package there by Peter Costello, all very complex, the sort of thing you can only do with the resources of Treasury to cost it. And within a nanosecond, Kevin Rudd matched it. And so the wind went out of our sails pretty quickly. We all felt really flat. He was me-tooing us and all the big stuff. And of course, history says he won in the landslide. So the question will be, sometimes campaigns don't matter. right? Sometimes the campaign, it's all over by the shouting. This one will matter. And it'll come down to how well the Prime Minister and his front bench campaign, and the back office too, and, you know, the campaign team, and how well Peter Dutton and his front bench, who are not as tested as they should be in my view, how well they campaign.
Yeah, and don't forget, Kevin Rudd was ahead 57-43. So he ended up something like 53-47. So it's a little bit different because Peter Dutton's probably 52-48 at the moment, which is an improvement on a couple of weeks ago, let's face it, and he's ahead. But the government will hope, Labor will hope, they can get that 2% or so to an incumbent that you can kind of get in a campaign if you perform well against, as you point out, an inexperienced opposition.
Can he?
But that's the question. If that's your best hope, you know, I'd be pretty worried if I was working in a government office right now that I might be out of a job. Let's face it. So that's the keys to government question. He
had a shocker in 2022, as we know. He had an absolute shocker during the Voice campaign. I think, you know, you can see in the reported stories of his colleagues saying, please help me here, don't come anywhere near my electorate, Prime Minister. Usually they're gagging for the Prime Minister to visit. This time round they're saying, keep away, you know, you're basically electoral poison. I think that's telling.
But it's tight enough, that's the thing. So at the moment, Dutton's got the upper hand, but it's rare to see a campaign being so critical to the outcome, and that's what we're seeing right now. Or we're about to see when we finally get this show on the road, Peter.
What about this yarn today that, you know, somehow there's insider trading when he was in opposition? I made the point, you know, you can't have insider trading unless you're an insider. He wasn't the shadow finance minister. He wasn't the shadow treasurer. He wasn't the leader. That was Malcolm Turnbull. I know at the time who got Treasury briefings. I think they were pretty poor briefings, if I'm really honest, because I know that Malcolm Turnbull thought they weren't worth the time he was giving them, and he was ringing his mates at Goldman Sachs in New York to get information on where things might go with the GFC. Well, Peter Dutton wasn't anywhere near that. He was over there as the shadow health minister. 16 years on, this is just reheading an old story, isn't it?
Where's the evidence, I guess, would be what I would say. You know, there's look at this coincidence, but Peter Dutton might have been reading newspapers and think there'd be a bank bailout. You know what I mean? So I think you said Joe Hockey was briefed, and Joe Hockey and Peter Dutton are mates, but no one's suggesting Joe Hockey told Peter Dutton. I mean, he's not even in government. Murray Watt says, no. Is it a coincidence? Well, it could be, because he might just be a savvy financial operator who says, well, they're going to bail out the banks. It's a good time to invest. And then he declares it. So, yeah, there's not enough in it to make a decent hit. What it does make me wonder, because I have seen this sort of phenomenon before, Peter, is this the first and they've got something bigger to try to hit him with? Because this isn't going to make a damn difference. And you'd hope for their sake, that dirt unit, they have something a little bit better to hit him with, because this just doesn't get anywhere. I mean, I didn't even bother reporting on it today, frankly. I just thought, well, whatever. 2009, no evidence. So, but I think it is a bit of a sign they're going to go pretty personal in the next few weeks, and let's see what they come up with. And when you go that way, it can backfire on you, of course, as you know. You want it to be a clean hit, otherwise it can come back and hit you, Peter.
Do you think it's going to be called this weekend, Andrew?
No, I do not. And I reported today the cabinet meeting's been called for Monday. And I think that it was an option to call it this weekend, but I think they've had no lift in the polls from the rate cut, so they've decided not. There's too many reasons against it, such as the WA election. I don't think the Prime Minister's made up his mind, but the fact that a day or so ago they flagged to ministers that there was to be a cabinet meeting next Monday tells you we're at least going till then, which starts to push April 5 out of the picture. And maybe the Sunday after Roger Cook, or if they get together and look at the numbers and don't like them, maybe you just go through the budget, believe it or not, and go to May and just hope something happens your way. The feeling is that's not the case, but with no decision yet made by the PM, who knows?
Yeah, I do think it's bizarre that they called a cabinet meeting. They're usually scheduled, and they're scheduled well in advance. So this must be one that is out of cycle, you know, an unscheduled one that's put in the diary.
Was scheduled yesterday.
Why is that happening? Why is that? Yeah, exactly. So why is that happening? Yeah, that's interesting. All right, well, we're on election watch right now, aren't we? Thanks, Andrew.